Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, hello. My name is Stella Bochoti and I'm a PhD candidate at University of Western Macedonia. The topic that I have chosen for this conference is organizational change, definition, handling, and good practices. A crucial question that everyone certainly has is, how do I change? I can change with knowledge. I study how to change, and with practice. So I am finally ready to change. The proverbial phrase that characterizes the philosophy of Heraclitus, everything flows, nothing remains, is nowadays more relevant than ever before. Rapid technological developments, globalization, pandemic, conversions, and rearrangements in society are just some of the changes that are taking place in people's lives. In an environment that is constantly changing and transforming, organizations are called, if they want to survive and expand, to adopt by making the notion of change dominant in their organizational culture. They have to make continuous primary and secondary changes which will go across the entire structure and function of the organization. Plenty of researchers have written about the various factors that influence the implementation or processes of change. Some factors that affect organizational change are the change itself, the internal and external factors leading to the need for change, whether the organization is ready to accept it, the sufficient resources, convincing arguments for those who react to change, incentives for its supporters. And now, why does a change lead to failure? Because of stress, confusion, indignation, fatigue, resistance, insecurity, lack of leadership commitment, absence of a team that will lead to it, incomplete communication, lack of information and communication, not understanding the need for change, disagreement with the way in which change is implemented. There are many factors which can lead to the success of change. To begin with, education is a significant one. It is needed a coordinated training plan organized according to the specific needs of each organization. Employees must be prepared properly for what will happen and need training in issues of cooperation, teamwork, leadership, effective communication. For instance, grouping interactive workshops and opportunities for continuing education inside and outside of the organization will create a positive atmosphere and enhance the individual and group skills of the staff. Another factor is the internal communication. In most organizations, communication takes place from the top to the bottom and takes the form of announcements. The process becomes more difficult when there is a significant change in progress as it is common for information to be lost, rumors to be circulated, misunderstandings and a bad climate to be created. Knowledge in management issues will give the change manager all the tools to process and flow the information, to take advantage of informal communication networks and to save time and effort. The attitude toward change should become one of the main criteria for selecting employees in organizations because in this way it will be created a good base by employees potential change careers for any future program that the management desires to implement. Staff evaluation must be accomplished because a well-established staff appraisal system will allow the leader or leadership team to understand the strengths and weaknesses of their people. Also, management will be able to gain a clear picture of the weaknesses that need to be improved and to set realistic change goals tailored to the specific skills of the staff. And later, once a change program is implemented, the effective evaluation will show what went well and what did not. There are many careers that lead to achieving change. First, and probably most important, the leader of the organization. Leader plays an important role in implementing public sector reforms because he involves two of the key aspects of reform, change and people. Businesses need a strong leadership presence to achieve maximum efficiency because He recognizes and addresses the ongoing challenges of the external environment and change, creating a clear vision, a common goal, and at the same time, he motivates all members of the organization to operate with this in mind. The existence of an appropriate organizational culture emerges as a key factor in achieving change, as Lou Gerstner, CEO of IBM, highlighted once. Many modern entrepreneurs tend to recognize it and consider it as an important point. In addition, the message of change can be used as a useful tool for management of the organization, as it has clear goals, the implementation of which is evaluated on a daily basis. In this, the leader and the workforce of the organization have a decisive role through appropriate training, motivation, and implementation of modern management. The process of change must be considered a part of the overall strategy and policy of any organization, and the workforce must know and apply it. Creating a vision for the future and the consequent goals and values through a broad consensus process, it is a very important step in changing a system because it will inspire and motivate all the stakeholders. Workforce is considered not only one of the greatest competitive advantages that an organization has, but also as one of the main tools aiming to achieve its goals. Another career is the developers of change, who examine and record precisely the actions that need to be followed in order for the change to take place successfully. Also, either they work within the organization or are hired only to accomplish this purpose. Executors are the people who perform some tasks assigned to them by the developers and are involved in the practical part of change. They can come from any level of the organization. And last but not least, the supporters of change. These people support the organization financially so that it can afford the costs of the change progress and process. Also, they encourage the employees to understand how important a change is and to further support it. Champions of change are the people who are supporters of change and willing to see it implemented, whilst opponents of change are the people who oppose it and may try to prevent its implementation. Some of the main causes which are responsible for the fact that people resist change are fear of the unknown, habit, economic implications, knowledge and skill obsolescence, not understanding the usefulness of change, limited resources, reactions to the career of change, lack of discipline and persistence, disagreement with the way change is implemented, lack of trust to those responsible for carrying out the change process. The supervisors of the change, to convince those who resist it, should analyze and describe the need for change, accept their desire to stay away from the early stages of it, ensure the participation in the planning of those which will be affected by the change, provide substantial and complete information, and also the opportunity that objections will be heard. Take into account team standards, habits, make only those changes that are unnecessary, and also handle time properly. Motivations are necessary for individuals to take action in specific directions and to adopt the required behavior, so change is more easily accepted when it motivates individuals to meet some needs. Communication is one of the most important elements in the effort for successful change because it predisposes employees positively, giving a tone of transparency and honesty. Proper communication can serve a large number of functions such as business announcements, emails, websites, reports, presentations and seminars, face-to-face meetings, informal discussions. Communication should be repetitive and diffuse through multiple channels include opportunities for questions and comments and also to be adapted to specific recipients. Some additional mechanisms for supporting and developing change are policies, procedures, and systems. The integration and utilization of new technologies is a key linchpin of initiatives to reduce administrative burdens and inventory administrative procedures. They focus on two axes of intervention: the redesign and digitization of public administration support centers and the decentralized and integrated provision of services to citizens and businesses. Hermes is the central internet portal of the Greek public administration. It was designed with the aim of being the national benchmark of the Greek e-government and to be a comprehensive platform which will provide information and electronic services to citizens and businesses through digital transaction and communication. The purpose of creating Hermes is to become the router that will facilitate and direct those interested in the appropriate places. Thus, the existing public websites of public sectors will not be abolished. They will retain their autonomy and content and will simply need to be redesigned and connected to the Hermes national portal. Voulier Watch platform is one of the 5 most popular policy innovation platforms internationally. Through its use, people may ask one member of the Greek or European Parliament, share their ideas and suggestions, and also make comments. The modern local authority must create a framework for participatory decision-making, enhancing transparency and accountability and action support, crowdsourcing with aim, the continuous improvement of services to citizens, local development and entrepreneurship. One idea submission platform is posted which listens to the citizens and quickly gather ideas and suggestions and so improves its services. Another one is recording platform City Agenda, which allows citizens to record suggestions, complaints, ideas, best practices, flows at the geographical points, mobilize the municipal council, and so improves their city or region. The consulting platform Crowd Deliberation listens to the citizens, co-shape the business plan, and build local authority with citizens. Crowd Donation Platform collects donations from citizens for projects and actions of the municipality, make the platform available to third parties so that it can raise its donations, and also the platform is compatible with the Greek and European institutional framework of donations of public sector careers. Open Data Platform applies the legislation for open data and for the publication of the implementation of the budget in real time, create funding opportunities as open data is central Europe policy, and promote innovation. Funding plans digital innovation actions that can be funded and gains access to the capital for the financing of projects and actions. For measuring the progress, vital questions we have to ask ourselves are the following. Who will collect and analyze the data? How and when is the data collected? And how will the organization utilize the results? The way an organization effectively combines its interconnected activities is what determines its overall performance. The public organization implements its mission and vision through a clear strategy. Strategy translates into plans, aspirations, and measurable goals. Planning and strategy reflect the organization's approach to implementing organizational change. Creating and implementing a transition plan is a prerequisite and is a concise roadmap with guidelines for smoothly managing the changes that inevitably arise from the beginning of operational flexibility and organizational innovation practices in an organization with a view to reducing implementation uncertainty, taking into account the reduction of implementation uncertainty, the need for a framework to monitor the progress of the integration of new practices and methods with the least possible impact on each operation organization. It should also include a monitoring and self-assessment mechanism that is likely to lead to reorientations. So, participation strengthens the belief in change, develops and unleashes all the skills of employees at the individual and organizational level to support the strategy of change, its planning, and the effective operation of its progress. The stages that the process of evaluating change goes through and are analyzed below are the recording of the situation, control of the implementation of the original design, and the future planning. During this stage, the quality, quantity, and duration of the results are evaluated as well as the level of human resources, individual, team, and organizational. The possible reactions related to the change are examined and recorded. At this stage, the evaluation focuses on verifying whether the initial plan is achieved and whether the organization's resources are used effectively to achieve the goals of the change plan. In this way, the future planning of the action plan goes through the evaluation of change with the ultimate goal of aligning with the vision of the organization. To evaluate change, it is necessary to have goals that are clear, specific, and measurable, but also a sufficient number of people within the organization to evaluate the results in order to evaluate the involvement of employees in the efforts of change. As it is known, the Greek public administration is characterized by chronic problems and pathogens which are based on the structural characteristics of the ruling bureaucratic administrative model, such as the strict hierarchical structure, the standardization of duties and responsibilities, the commitment to regulation, which were and still are even today the subject of intense controversy. The result of such an administration is to develop a civil service mentality which is characterized by inefficiency and alienation from its structural goal, which is to serve the citizen and businesses. So, the ongoing devaluation of the body of civil servants, both by the media and by the political system, makes it difficult to highlight the positive idiosyncrasies of the Greek public servant, which can be the starting point for the redeployment of the human capital of the Greek public administration. An organization that wants to make changes to its culture should pay attention to the form of leadership adopted by the organization, to the history of the organization, and the balance of power between different groups or individuals. The process of transition from the old to the new culture is laborious and long-lasting and requires strong leadership. The new culture, both in its entirety and in its individual elements, will be determined based on the general situation that prevails in the environment, internal or external of the organization, the outlined strategy and policy followed by the company, some pre-existing elements of culture that characterize it positively, and finally, based on the personal culture of the employees, mainly of the change leader and the senior management. The elements of the new desired culture are the vision, the values, the principles, the beliefs, the views, the way of acting, the attitudes. The next and most important stage after the identification of the new culture and the division of roles are the actions and methods for the communication, dissemination, and embracing of the new elements of the culture by the employees. Employees' commitment is a key force to an alliance between them and the organization, which brings significant results to organizational success. An extremely dedicated workforce is 50% more productive than an indifferent and detached one. Also, it should be great commitment to the new organizational culture, and some factors that triggers it are the right communicational practice, the leaders, the right person in the right place, the motivation, the more specialized staff in the organization. Some case studies of organizations and companies in the private and public sector in Greece which have made significant changes are EOP, a national organization for the provision of health services, TaxisNet, Vuli Watch, crowdsourcing in the Greek Parliament. And now some other case studies abroad are MIT, Apple, BMW, IBM. OECD countries face a growing number of challenges posed by the globalization, decentralization, and diversification of governance. Societies expect more than one government in areas such as education, health, safety, environmental protection, among others. The role of government has changed dramatically as it has become part of a larger policy network in which it has a role to play and participates in decision-making. Public service reform aims to improve human resource management, make better use of public resources, provide better public services, and change the public service image. Finland, France, Italy, Portugal, Spain, and Switzerland have undergone significant changes in their administrative culture as the procedures and the way they carry out their institutional arrangements conflict with national diligent priorities. For instance, the Finnish program Finwin, the organic laws and finance law related to the financial law in France, the Portugal public administration renewal and modernization process with 5 reform programs. Spain has implemented the basic law on civil servants, and in Italy, reforms were implemented to change the traditional culture to a new one. In Switzerland, the reforms concern a change in the management of workforce. They support the change with ideological vision, leaders, and institutional change, training, ability to apply. The comparative analysis of the experiences of the 6 OECD countries from their public sector reform efforts and the data provided by the bibliography review led to suggestions. A reform, and in particular an administrative one, should have the following characteristics in order to be manageable and more effective in achieving its objectives. It should be simple, consistent, realistic, based on evidence, investigate a way of action to deal with possible side effects, and stare at the future. And now, some good organizational change practices. The organization must establish a vision, involve the leader or leadership team, develop a business change plan, commit the stakeholders, develop the communication policy at all levels, create an infrastructure, measure and evaluate progress. At this stage, it can be argued that change has been incorporated into budget processes, but it still needs more time to be fully integrated into the public service culture and people's minds. The conclusions that emerge for the management of change may be summarized as follows. The necessity to create a vision and develop a strategy to achieve it. the need for political support and the formation of a leaders' coalition which will lead the change effort, the need for a strong and dedicated leadership with enough moral and legal authority to encourage coalition members to work together as a team, the ease of gradual implementation of the reform as it facilitated the understanding, adaptation and creation of a sense of belonging. It takes a long time to adapt people's minds to a new environment. The use of different channels of communication which will explain the reform and say reformation, for example, the media, conferences, opinion makers, and the internet. Using education as a tool to remove obstacles to reform, it will be able to develop the cause of the reform in more thoroughly way. The ease of controlling the initiative, which will encourage the creation of a learning system through experience to improve the reform initiative. So, change organizations, private and public, is not a simple and easy task. No one can guarantee its success with certainty. However, as we analyzed, there are mechanisms to support change that if the organization adopts them and reports them by applying appropriate methods and techniques, will achieve the desired change. Living in a constantly changing environment, organizations cannot but accept change as an integral part of their culture. Even the survival of the organization is judged nowadays by its ability to accept and implement change. The leader and the workforce of the organization are the most important carriers of change. Aware of the importance of commitment to the idea and values of organizational change, employees have to accept that change is a necessary condition for the organization, which desires to continue to exist and create. Thank you for your attention. And now, how about you? Are you ready to change?